Collins, you fell down the pecking order. So
fuck.
There's that.
Parks, you're the host today.
Well, and welcome to another episode of Gotta Pay Some Bills here. Well, we could just do a role reversal thing. I'll be the host. Collins, you can be a Jorginho hater, and Matt, you can be a sorry sexual.
Yeah, good luck.
Siemi Bakayoko, oh yo, Samina Mina, Edward Mende, Samina Mina Sam Sadate. He comes from Senegal.
And I think going out and get Saul was the top transfer of the market for Chelsea.
Chesney could have been in the shower smoking a cigarette like he was at Arsenal, and we still would not have scored.
My rants have been fueled by Scott. Don't get it twisted.
Big Rom. Man, fuck you.
In Roman we trust, right?
You and me are going to have a battle royale about Jorginho and diving. Welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. You've got me, Andy. You can follow me at Comiskey North. You got Parker at DJ Parkour and Matt at Matus Lee. Boys, I'm done with the adjectives. I'm out. I'm not that creative.
I was waiting too. I was getting all excited to see what you were going to say.
That might be the highlight of every single week of this, is seeing what kind of adjectives that you can use to describe us, whether we approve of them or not.
All right, I'll start working on that next week as soon as this pod's over. How about that?
Perfect.
We'll give you a category, or someone can write in a category, and you can assign something to myself and Matt, like movies or food or types of beer or whatever.
Yes. I like it.
I like it.
All right. Well, on that note, Parker, how you doing?
Yeah, great. I was just in Minneapolis at a stand-up comedian show. I went with my wife, so it was comedy weekend, boys. I went show on Friday, show on Saturday, and so appreciate the flexibility of moving the pod to Saturday this week, so we can all get together. Traveling on Sunday, so it's a bit busy, but a lot going on, and overall all good. A very enjoyable weekend so far. So how about you, Matt? I know you've been busier, maybe slightly less relaxing and slightly less enjoyable, but how are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Work has been a little chaotic in the last couple of weeks, but it is what it is. And today working on the basement. We're in the process of remodeling / finishing our basement. So doing a lot of framing today, getting a lot of that stuff in place. So yeah, just been a busy day all around. But did get to watch Chelsea with Collins. Stopped over at his place, and so we were able to watch the game together. And yeah, it was a good time. So can't really complain too much. Collins, how were you?
Good. Just got back from celebrating my dad's birthday, so big shout out to Mark. Went out for barbecue and had some good beers, and so I'm fighting off a food coma during this pod.
You were fighting off sleep in the last one, and now you're fighting off a food coma.
Yeah, to pull back the curtain for listeners on this one. Yeah, I talked about how little sleep I got prior to the pod last week. I went back and edited it in the middle of the week, and I didn't remember any of our conversations at all. It was all brand new to me. So it was good work. Good work, boys.
It's like you get to listen to the pod in real time. Then it's great, right?
Right. All right. Well,
first time caller, long time listener.
Yeah, first time, long time. All right. Well, we are on episode 8, and I feel like there's only one true answer to who we make this pod in memoriam of. And that's the man, the myth, legend, Ross Barkley.
Save Chelsea are back in front through Ross Barkley.
Honorable mentions, though, there's some great number 8s. Kovacic, Oscar, Mark Hughes, Gus Poirier, and Frank Lampard.
Thank you.
Waiting for it.
Yeah. With bated breath, just waiting on it.
I don't know. I'm on Team Ross.
You might get outvoted on this one. I'm going to go Team Frank. Super Frankie Lampard, baby.
From a Chelsea player perspective, yes, I will go Frank. The only thing that is shying me away from a full-blown yes to Frank is his managerial campaign with Chelsea. But yes, I would definitely be very pro Frank on this pod.
All right, I guess we'll go Frank Lampard.
Light second for just barely missed it with Ross there.
All right. So on tonight's episode, we review the Crystal Palace match, 2-1 win at Selhurst Park.
Hudson Edouard, options now for the Eagles. This is Jordan Ayew. Fisses it in. And there is the all-important touch from Hudson Edouard.
Should have done better, Aubameyang.
Well, Thiago Silva did well. This is Aubameyang! And that's 1-1. And on his Premier League debut for Chelsea, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang opens his account for his new club.
Well, maybe he had too much time to think about the first strike, but the second one's instinctive.
Gallagher did well to right the challenge and scores a sensational goal. It had to be him. Some story this off the subs bench on his Selhurst Park return. Crystal Palace's player of the season last season.
So we'll talk about Gallagher and his homecoming there to Selhurst. We'll talk about that Thiago Silva yellow card. Talk a little bit about the offense and maybe holding the ball a little too much. And finally, we'll do a little deep dive into Ben Chilwell down that left flank. But like I said, we'll start with Gallagher here. Spent all of last season on loan at Crystal Palace, was their player of the year, and didn't start today, but made the most of his substitute appearance. The goal itself was amazing. Matt and I know we're going nuts. Parker, I imagine you were too. But is this kind of a jumping off point for Conor?
I don't know if it's a jumping off point. I definitely think it's a step in the right direction. Seeing what he can do, what he's capable of. The Palace supporters, everybody at Selhurst Park, they know what he can do. He's still trying, I think, to prove himself to the people at Chelsea and to try and find his place in the squad. It's one of the joys of football, right? You can't write a story like that. It's just one of those things where it's, his quote unquote homecoming, and he scores a 90th minute winner, an absolute great strike, and he doesn't celebrate it. That's what you love, right? We see this all the time, and we've talked about this, like, to the three of us, he's a kid. Like, he is a kid. But to be able to understand the circumstances that he's in, he's playing for his actual club, his parent club, so to speak, against the team where he was loved by everybody at Palace. To be able to go out and do something like that, like you can't even script it. It's just one of those crazy things, and it just kind of happens. Do I think it's a kind of a jumping off point for him? I wouldn't say that 100%. I do think that it is a step in the right direction to gain the trust of the Chelsea faithful when Conor maybe hasn't had the greatest of showings when he's been out on the pitch so far this season. So I do think it's a good thing for him, but I don't know if we're going to see enough of him for it to be like a jumping off point where this propels him above, like Mount or RLC or anybody else like that.
Yeah, I think Connor really needed that moment. To your point, he didn't have the greatest start of the season. It was a pretty rough start to coming in and getting a red card right away and just not having the best showings out there. And we all did see what he could do for Palace last year. He was a phenomenal player. He was, in every match team, he was the guy. He was player of the season. And so Connor needed that moment for his own confidence and, to remind himself what he can do. Part of me wonders if the comfort of Selhurst Park had something to do with that goal a little bit, right? He came on, he got a standing ovation from the home fans, which I can't remember the last time that happened. And I must have missed the pre-match comments or whatever, but people thought that was what the reception was going to be for him. I didn't know how they were going to take it. It's kind of like going back to, the evil mothership of, you were one of us for a season and we understood that you were still a Chelsea player on loan, but a good amount of those times people kind of switch over to, no, I'm Palace now. And I think a lot of people wanted him to do that. So I didn't know how he was going to be received coming back. Happy to see the standing ovation, happy to see him get cheered because I think he deserved it. But man, to rip the heart out of those fans in the 90th minute against Chelsea, it's brutal for those folks. It's elation for us and our fans, right? But it's just brutal for those folks that cheered him on. Connor needed the moment and he took it. I really hope he continues to get chances because we all saw a lot of quality, even in those bad matches. He still did a lot of the right things. But for me, this is the start of the Potter era. I think we're all hitting reset on a lot of players and our system and the way we're playing and a lot of the personnel stuff. It's all going to start fresh. Even if people kind of don't 100% change positions and whatnot, it's still a fresh start for everybody. Everyone's is in equal mind of the manager. Everyone has to earn their place. Everyone has to prove it. Potter's known to give younger guys a chance. Yes, Potter's a fair and reasonable manager, and we'll say the best people will play. If Connor deserves that, he'll get out there. I think there's a place for him in our team. Absolutely. He's going to need to put in shift after shift after shift. And I think this is a great start for it. And I hope it continues. I hope we don't even need the super highs like that. I just think we need to see the consistent match after match sort of solid performances.
Yeah. And in terms of it being a springboard, it was the first, like you guys have said, the first real positive showing, consistently positive showing that we've seen out of Connor, even though it was only a handful of minutes. But I think that's in part due to the fact that he was playing the position he is comfortable playing in. Tuchel played him, the times we saw him struggle are the times that he played deep, or the times that he played that Kova role going box to box with the emphasis on defense. Connor didn't have to do that today. I was trying to figure out the formation with you, Matt, earlier today, and to me it looked like a 4-2-2-2 with a kind of a box midfield, 2 holding mids and 2 attacking mids. So do I think he'll unseat Mason Mount and Kai Havertz? Maybe at some point. I think it's going to take a very consistent struggle out of both of them for him to unseat them. But I think this definitely earns him more of an opportunity off the bench, more of the first guy off the bench kind of role. Because Ruben, we know what Ruben is. I don't think he had a bad game, but he didn't do anything that really impressed me. Kovacic kind of struggled today. And so, the midfield has its weaknesses. And if Conor can keep racking up good performances, I think absolutely he has a shot. And I think this would be step number one. I think this was a big step for him. And speaking of that, he was our man of the match this week on the Flag Stays Down poll. You can find that after every match on Twitter at FlagDownPod, receiving 44% of the votes. He's the first midfielder this year to earn the award. So congrats to Conor on that. I don't really know what else to say except that the goal was amazing. Matt, you saw I literally threw my hat across the room. We both jumped up, scared the shit out of my wife.
Yep. We both stood up at the exact same time. You threw your hat at the TV. Luckily, it caught the TV stand, and your wife was extremely perplexed as to what was going on. She's like, wait, what? And we just stood up for about a minute and a half, just like, what just happened?
I started yelling. I just started yelling. I didn't know what I just saw. And the way he didn't celebrate instantly, I thought like my eyes played a trick on me. Like, what did I, like the ball must have hit like the top of the net or something, because he didn't, he didn't do anything. And then I was just like, wait, did that go in? Or like, because everyone just kind of stood for a second, and I just was perplexed, like your wife was, Collins. I was perplexed, and then I was just yelling. It was just a lot of me yelling because I couldn't process that in the moment. You hope as a fan, you hope for moments like that, and especially lately, it doesn't feel like we've had the ability to make those moments where it's like, oh, we can still pull it off, we can still do it, and it ends in a draw, or even worse, it ends in a late goal the other way. It's just, those are the moments that I'm more accustomed to recently, and there was a surprise. It kind of came out of nothing. It was a move and a drive that happened frequently in the match, and he just pulled a rabbit out of the hat. Just fantastic, man. Hats off.
And just I've watched the replay of that goal probably 100 times now. Curls it, top of the box, top bins, far post. Just, it could not have been any more perfect of a goal.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And like we were both trying to like look at our group chat, and then we both put our phones down, and then he hit it, and then we're like, wait, what? Like, what just happened? And we both stood up like, no, that did not just happen. It was crazy. It was insane, but he's capable of it. And to see him be able to do that, absolutely a wonderful time.
Let's go off script for just a second here while we're talking about great goals, and talk about the other goal Chelsea scored today. Aubameyang just with an absolute striker's goal, which is something that, Parker, like you said, is not something that we're accustomed to. Getting goals out of your number 9, especially a goal like that.
Your actual number 9.
There was a tweet going around that as soon as after Aubameyang scored, the Chelsea fans in attendance were chanting, "How shit you must be, like you gave up a goal to our number 9," or something like that. But Parker, does this change your evaluation? A couple weeks ago, you said Aubameyang was going to be a 6 to 8 goal scorer on the year.
Yeah, no, I still believe it. He didn't have the greatest of games, but I'm not going to shit on him today, because that goal that he had was fantastic. I question how many of those he's got in him, and how many moments he's going to create like that. But that today was why we signed him. Not the best performance, wasn't really involved much in our attack, or didn't really show up much. You don't pay guys like that to show up and touch the ball 100 times. You pay guys like that to finish that goal. And it was a pure striker's goal. Doesn't even take a touch, lets it bounce across his body, right? It's not even a roll across your body. It's a bounce across your body. First time on the volley, places it perfect, knows exactly what he's doing. None of that was accidental. It felt like he was a routine goal for him, and it was nothing but a routine goal. Fantastic, man.
It was the definition of ew. Like it was so well thought out. And the commentators, they said it perfectly. He never even looked at the goal. He knew where it was. Like, and that's something that you really can't teach. Like, he knows where the goal is. Doesn't matter if he has his back turned, he knows where the goal is. He knows where he has to place it. And he did just that. It was absolutely beautiful, absolutely sensational. And definitely a huge shift in momentum, right before the half. And that sparked, I think, a lot of things for Chelsea as we looked at the second half.
And the man who set up that, played a part in setting up that goal, could have been sent off just a few minutes earlier, and then proceeded to injure a player on the Thiago Silva hat trick was fantastic. Almost gets sent off, assist in the goal, injure a player. John Terry would be proud.
Yes, the JT hat trick.
But let's rewind it just a little bit to Thiago Silva's yellow card there. Was it Edouard who was in on goal?
Jordan
Ayew, thank you. With the ball in space, Thiago Silva, the only man in the area. Looks like Silva may have been fouled. Looks like it could have been a 50-50 call foul either way. Silva goes to ground, bats the ball out of the way while on the ground. Play stops due to the foul, and yellow card given. Goes to VAR, then it's upheld, no red card. For once, I disagreed with VAR. I was under the impression that Silva was going to get sent off, but I know I'm probably in the lone camp there, I assume.
You are from my perspective, but go ahead, Matt.
It's a very dark yellow. That's like the only way that I can say it. Like, it's one of those things where, when we watch, American football, like the NFL, what was the original call? Is there enough to overturn it? And I see arguments both ways. Collins, your big thing was technically he was the last defender. But you did have people sprinting back who could have, who could have helped that situation. Ayew had to go around Silva, so it wouldn't have been a clear and obvious, like, direct goal scoring opportunity. And the other thing that I've been thinking about is, how many times have we seen players go down on just a random foul like that, maybe even less than that, and immediately try and grab the ball? Like, it's a part of the game. Also, the fact that he was 35 yards out, like, there's nothing clear and obvious about a goal scoring opportunity at that point. Had he been, on the 18-yard box and that happened, then yeah, I would completely say, yeah, definite, red card. But I just think that there are too many variables to try and dictate that a red would have, that the yellow that was given would have been overturned and been enough to prove that it was a red. That's just kind of how I look at it. And I don't know, we've seen this happen on numerous occasions, like I said, where people go down for random ticky-tack fouls. I'll use this opportunity to get my moment in. We've seen Jorginho do it a fucking handful of times. Like, let's be honest, we've seen it a bunch of times.
I was going to say the same thing for the record.
Yeah,
he does that all the time.
Like, we've seen it a bunch of times, it just so happened to be the fact that Thiago Silva was the last defender, and he did outstretch his arm to try and bat the ball away, which then caused a lot of issue, and it caused a lot of questions as far as how is this actually going to be ruled yellow versus red. I think that there were a lot of other factors that played into it besides last defender, and I think that's why he was able to only get a yellow and not a red.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I thought Silva was the one fouled in the whole exchange, and he was fouled to the point where if Silva, the 38-year-old vet, gets fouled, and in his mind is a clear enough foul that he's going to grab the ball, it's a foul. Like, I'm going to trust, and a little bit of that's dark arts maybe, but I'm trusting that guy. And in a situation like that where he's trying to grab the ball because he was fouled, like, did he deny a clear goal scoring opportunity? I think by my definition, yeah, because it's a goal scoring opportunity. That's how goal is written. He was, technically the last defender, but I thought Chills could have made a play at that ball as well. So because there was enough space, it wasn't just one-on-one. Some of those situations that we've seen in the past, but tough call. It's I think there was just too many factors, like Matt said. There's too many arguments against it for it to go. The only problem I have is that VAR has had that argument as well for other things, and it doesn't go our way, or it goes the other way too, where I think there's not enough arguments, and then what do I know? I'm just trying to apply the logic that I was given to the situation at hand. And yeah, I could have, if it happened the other way, which is what I always try to do. If it happened the other way and they didn't give it, I don't think I would have been furious. I think I would have understood. Like, yeah, there was enough there that I can see it. Wouldn't have been happy, but it is what it is a little bit.
See, and for all the points that you guys brought up is the reason why I think he probably should have been sent off. I mean, number one, he plays for Chelsea, so VAR has to go against us. So I was surprised when it didn't. But number two, the argument can be made, there are people sprinting back, whatever, but like in the moment, he was the last defender. It's a handball that's stopping, regardless of how far away from the goal he is, a goal scoring opportunity. It is an opportunity to score a goal. And I don't know, man. I was surprised. I was happy. It was just a yellow, but I could see why Patrick Vieira was pissed off, especially after we then scored 2 minutes later and he had a head in it. But I want to propose this to you guys. This is my terrible hot take of the week. I think we're starting to see the decline of Thiago Silva. This is 2 straight weeks with a questionable decision on his part. Well, I guess not 2 straight, but 2 straight matches. It's been like 3 weeks since we played. But, you see this a lot in American football with quarterbacks where, except with Tom Brady. But you get to a certain age and then all of a sudden shit just hits the fan. There's no middle ground. There's no steady decline. It just all of a sudden goes bad. And I think we're starting to maybe see that with Thiago Silva. Again, small sample size, but we're looking at 2 straight weeks where it's been questionable from him from a decision-making standpoint, which is not his MO. So, is that him compensating for the body breaking down a little bit, or is that overthinking it? I don't know what it is. I'm not friends with Thiago Silva. I don't talk to him on a daily basis, but from my outside perspective, it looks like this may be, and it is going to be, Thiago Silva's last year with Chelsea.
So I am very, I'm hurt to hear you say that. And the only reason why is because, well, actually 2 reasons. A, he has been one of the staples in our defense for the last 2 seasons, and we always put him in man of the match. So he is on such a high pedestal that any small mistake is going to be looked at probably tenfold, right? Because he doesn't do that. Like, that's just not what he does. However, if you look at the last 2 matches, and I believe Fofana was on our man of get the fuck out of here this week.
Yes, this week he was.
I believe he was, and in the Champions League match, Dave was the other center back.
Yes, he was.
So I think there's a lot of compensation in him getting caught out of position based on mistakes of others that is forcing him into those situations. For that, I don't think it's a decline for Thiago Silva. I think that he's working with kind of new people in that different center back position, and he's, I think, picking up some of the slack that others are kind of leaving for him to try and pick up. So I don't consider it a decline in what Thiago Silva is doing. I think it's something that's born almost out of necessity right now.
So let me ask you this as devil's advocate. Were the likes of Rudiger, Christensen at a point, the guys we had playing at center back last year and last 2 years, possibly papering over Thiago Silva's decline then?
No,
because if it's a team effort back there and he's compensating for lesser defenders, we're better defenders propping his game up.
No, because we were running a back 3, where right now Silva is part of a back 2. And so we saw that, right? We saw with, you have a right back, a left back, and 2 center backs. Before, it was a back 3, and Silva was the anchor, right? He was always right in the middle of those 3 center backs. Now he's having to play what I would consider a bigger role with only a right center back and a left center back, and trying to pick that up. And Fofana, he had a very good debut, and then he's been kind of in my estimation. Granted, I clearly don't know what I'm talking about half the time, but like, that's just what I've seen. It's just kind of like it's okay, but for paying 80 million for you, like, you better be damn near world class. And right now, I don't think that he is. I don't think that he's even close to that. But, and then you look at, the Champions League match with Dave. Dave doesn't play center back. Like, that's not his natural position. He's a right back. And I think that in the last 2 matches, Thiago is trying to cover for that as best he can. Are there going to be mistakes? Yeah, because he's going to be caught out of position from other people either giving up the ball, making bad passes, poor decisions, and he's trying to help them out and compensate for it. And yeah, if he does have to take, a yellow-ish or make some sort of mistake, that's fine. Like, he's done so much good. He's built up so much good credit that I think we can kind of write it off like, okay, that's fine. I don't think it is the decline of Thiago Silva.
Yeah, I'll split the baby a bit. I think not necessarily the decline of Silva. He didn't have his best matches though. I just and Collins, I don't think it's going to be a swift decline for him. I think you're going to see some deterioration from his game a bit. and having to be a little bit more out of position and cover and do some of those other things. But I think he's going to be pretty solid over a 45 or 50 match span that he's going to be featured in, or however many matches he'll play. Today's match, I thought he played completely fine. I understood what he was doing when he tried to grab the ball, and I don't think he had a bad match, and I don't think he deserves that sort of criticism, because I believed it was a foul against him. So if I was him, I would have probably done the same thing. And if that gets called a foul on him, we're not having any of this discussion. There's no yellow card, red card discussion, none of it. If the foul got called on him, which probably should have. So to me, then we're not even talking about this at all. He had a slip in the game before, and we were like, holy shit, he's human. He is not Superman. Like, you might, if you really want to nitpick it, you're probably going to find more errors out of him this year than last. Sure. I just don't think it's going to be a very quick decline out of him. I think you're going to, because he's smart and he's all about positioning and reading the game. I think if he can physically go, be fit enough to play, he'll be in the right positions 99 times out of 100, and we'll be good to go and roll forward with that.
Fair enough. Good points. It's just my hot take of the week. So we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, again, I hope it's not the case, but just something I thought I would bring to everyone's attention.
Can we call this segment our Saul hot take of the week?
No.
The fly the L hot take of the week.
The take of the get the fuck out of here.
Yes.
Collins, to be fair, I said to myself today, like, man, we're seeing more errors out of Thiago. Like I had the same thought. So it's not a terrible take out of nowhere. So I get where you're coming from. I understand it.
All right. Well, let's go back to the attack here. One thing, Parker, you and I were talking about in the build up to the pod here, is just holding the ball a little too long. We were talking specifically about Raheem Sterling, Reece James, and then got into Ben Chilwell as well. But it seems to be a pretty common thing amongst the Chelsea 11, regardless of who's out there. Not a lot of pace in the way we play, and just kind of holding on to it and hope things work out. I don't want to say how do we fix that, because that's an easy question. We just play faster. But where do we think that fix is going to come from? And when will we see it?
I think it's got to come from the manager. I think it's got to be Potter ball. You just an emphasis on the quicker passes, and it's not inherently a bad thing to take time on the ball, but the way we played today for a lot of it, let's call it 70 minutes, was boring. It wasn't exciting. We didn't create much. We had a few half chances here and there, but played boring today. I didn't feel like we deserved to win. We have a lot of matches where we'll have 15 shots or 18 shots, 6 on target, 8 on target, whatever it is, and then we end up losing 1-0 or something like that. That wasn't today. It was not a very offensively creative match for us. And I think when teams can sort of get their men behind and defend and play for us, they don't have to do much. We don't really make people have to go out of position very often. And so I think it has to come from Potter. Just sort of the emphasis on who's going where. And, we don't have to talk about Chills in the second, but I thought there were a lot of really good runs being made. So I'm not like necessarily blaming all of our players. We just got to make the right passes and kind of get people into some space to free some stuff up and sort of start asking questions, and instead of just hanging back. And Chills didn't really drive at anyone, didn't really attack anyone, didn't even play balls down that left side to force an attack from that perspective. Ball got to him, and felt like it just always immediately turned around and got cycled around back. So that's where acts go to die for us today. And the right side was similar too. So it wasn't just Chills. It wasn't just the Chills problem, but I hope Potter can sort of initiate that.
Collins?
I think it's got to come from the players. I think Potter can coach it up all he wants. And the thing that he can control is who's out on the pitch to an extent. With a big money club like Chelsea, there's certain people who have to play all the time, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks. But he has control of that lineup, and so it's going to be who can show that they can play Potter ball. Raheem Sterling is just never going to do it. He never has done it. He never will do it. We saw it today. He's at the top of the box, 3, 4, 5 cutbacks, and then the ball is nicked off him. And then he does that once a game at this point. But he'll get his shots. He'll get his goals. He'll create. So it's not coming from there. He's never going to change. I would like to think that it's going to have to come from Havertz and Mount. As if we're going to play that 4-2-2-2 or variation of that, they're going to be the creators. They're going to be the ones up top pushing the attack. And the longer they hold the ball, the more stagnant we become, the more back passes we have. So the more that we played those 1-2s, and we played it for the first 5 minutes, we played it for the last 10 minutes of the match. A lot of 1-2s through the middle, a lot of runs. In fact, just today in general, there were a crazy amount of runs being made that I could physically see with my eyes. But apparently we were not seeing them as players. So I think it's got to come from those creators. Yeah, those back passes, man, they're getting to me.
We can sign Michael Bradley to replace Jorginho whenever you want.
Hey, not Michael Bradley. Jesus.
I got them all fucked up.
Jorginho had quite a few diagonal balls over the top that found attackers.
I already shit on him once. I thought that he actually had a pretty decent match. I would say probably like a 7-2 is where I'd probably rank him. So it wasn't a bad match for him at all. The issue that I have with our team is when we're back passing the ball, or when we're forced to back pass the ball, you see nobody in the midfield or that final third moving. Everybody is just staying. So like when teams play a low block against us, nobody moves. Everybody is just standing still. Like, hey, pass me the ball. No, get yourself open and then make something happen. That's the problem, is nobody is moving. It is the most stagnant thing I've seen in a very long time. Just like the fact that we're trusting Jorginho, Thiago Silva, and Reece James, those 3 people, to make something happen. Like that's honestly, and that's been the same way even since Tuchel. Those are the 3 people that we rely on to create opportunity. Usually it's just bomb it down the right to Reece and let him cross the ball in and hope for the best. Like that's just the way it is. Work things through the middle, try and open up some things, one touch, things like that, make it work. Right now, I think we're still in a phase of trying to get out of playing Tuchel's system versus what Potter wants to implement. I think we're still in that kind of transition period. But it's unfortunate that you see a lot of the same things. But, I think give it a month and then see what happens. I think you start to see a lot more things open up once, I don't want to say that they're brainwashed, but once they get out of that brainwashed state of what Tuchel wanted versus what Potter wants, then I think you're going to see a different, more attacking Chelsea, because we saw it at Brighton when he was there. They were on the front foot all the time. All the time. And that hasn't changed, as we saw against their match with Liverpool today. It hasn't changed. And I think we need more of that. And I think it's just going to take a little bit of time to get to that level where he wants to be at. So I think we're still in that transitional phase.
So I do want to touch on Chilwell's been brought up a couple times. I want to touch on him specifically because down that left-hand side, I can name probably 3 or 4 different times where he had the ball in our half on that left side. Raheem Sterling makes a diagonal run from the center of the pitch out to the left wing with a center back trailing him, a slower center back trailing him. Chills looks at him and then back passes. Why? I don't even have a topic or anything for that. It's just a why. Cucurella, I've seen Cucurella do it. I know he can do it.
You know, I struggle with like where those two rank in my head, and Chills has been hot cold this, where he's had some brilliant moments. His goal was phenomenal. I mean, one of the most ridiculous, audacious goals I've seen out of a left wing back ever, and that's coming from me who praises and cheers for Marcus Alonso, like that. So he has great ability, and I like what he brings to the table, but Cucurella just is so much more direct, and he plays with so much more purpose. He gets the ball, either runs or sends it, deep, or he finds a good diagonal ball, tries to pick out someone in the middle with some space. Like it's sort of his MO. He just, always is kind of going. He's not afraid to take people on. Chills doesn't run on anybody. He is terrified to run at people. And so I don't know why he didn't play Sterling and Collins. It just was driving me mad too. I was just yelling, why will you not play this ball? It's not a hard one to see. He's got plenty of space and he's fast, man. It's Sterling. So you don't have to be inch perfect to make the pass. You just got to send it and let him go on it. Just give him some space to run out. And if you play it wide enough, the keeper's not coming out. So just let him go. And then, good things happen, right? Then we can start opening stuff up. People can run in, and we've had a ton of success on that left side when Cucurella and Sterling overlap. And I don't know why Chills was afraid to do it today.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. And I kind of go back to what the formation was under Tuchel. Like, Chills had the freedom to go forward because you had 3 center backs behind you, specifically Rudiger, who could body an entire team if he wanted to. I think he had more freedom that way. And when we see him get brought on for that goal, like, yeah, he was on for all of 5 minutes before that happened, and he scored that ridiculous goal. But again, that was also under Tuchel, so that would have also been probably more attack driven. And I think it was, were we down 1 or were we at a draw at that point? I can't really remember when
Chills was subbed into the midfield in that match. He wasn't subbed on as a left back.
Right. And then I don't remember if we were down or not, which would have been under Tuchel, a more attack heavy and pushing forward type system. But I think with this new formation where you also have to defend, and Collins, you and I talked about this. Who's a better defender between Cucurella and Chilwell?
No question. No question on this one. The Spaniard.
Yeah, and I again, and I fully conceded. I didn't fully concede. I partially conceded. I said I haven't seen enough of Cucurella with a big club to be able to determine, who's the better defender. Granted, they're both above Marcus Alonso, so it's a pretty easy task. And no, you can stop, Parks. I think that whatever this new system is, like, we all trust Reese to go up forward. Like, we know that he can track back and do what he needs to do. Like, we never have an issue with that. We know what he can produce on the offensive side of the ball. I think the hesitation with Chills is that we know what he can produce in the attack, but his defense is somewhat questionable. So I think that's probably why you're not seeing like those runs, on the left side like he used to make and things like that. But then again, he also has more of a defensive responsibility than he probably used to have before. So I think that's probably why you're not seeing that. And let's say that he does try one of those balls going into Raz. Well, if that gets deflected and goes behind him, we might be kind of shit out of luck, because then you have Thiago Silva, who was playing that left center back position, and then you have Fofana, and then Reese might be halfway up the pitch already. So you really don't have much of a defense to try and come back. Jorginho, he's slow. I don't think that's a shock to anybody. Like, he's slow. Kova's probably halfway up the pitch too. So you don't have as much security behind you as you did previously.
Yeah, I guess my issue is that he's already basically in line with that back, with the two center backs. He's maybe 2 yards ahead of those center backs when Sterling's making those runs. So it's not like Chills is super far up the pitch. So I don't agree that he's worried about the ball being nicked and then having to track back, because he's already back. I think mentally he doesn't understand the system. I think Cucurella is a better fit for this system, A, because he can defend, B, because he's not afraid to go forward and attack. And I think Chills
you forgot C, the fact that he played under Graham Potter.
Yeah, so he
knows the system.
Yeah. And like I said, when we signed Cucurella, this was not a backup signing. We did not pay that money for a backup. Chilwell does not fit this system. Chilwell, like most of this team, I think is mentally weak. The injury may have played a part in that, and that's certainly no fault of his own. It's when you get a major injury, you're going to be a little timid to go forward, but to not find an open streaking best attacker when you're looking at him and then you decide to back pass it's unexcusable to me. And so I understand why Chilwell had to start, because Cucurella was sick, but I want to see Cucurella from now on. Until Chills can get his head on straight, until Chills can understand the system and Chills can figure it out, like, Cucurella is your starting left back, because also Ben Chilwell follows the Marcus Alonso school of defense. How many times did he get crossed up today? And he didn't. Maybe we'll save this for pod after dark. He's responsible for that goal. I know you guys don't agree with me, but he is.
You guys ever see the Manchester United clip where De Gea gets the ball and someone's like charging him down? He's got the ball at his feet. He looks at Harry Maguire, sees him, and then he decides to just boot it out. That's what that just reminded me of. He's like, he sees it right there and goes the other way, right? He just hits the bed. I think you're going to see Kukurea as the primary, and we already started to see that this season. I think we were all pretty hyped on Chills when we saw what he could do in the wingback system, and he was a big part of it. He was a big contributor for us in that way, and so it's kind of like it's a sad story for me to see him kind of fall out of favor. But Chelsea, this is best 11, and there's no time for tears when you've got new shit to do. I'm fine with it. I'm happy to see Kukurea come back.
Yeah, I like. I'm not saying Chills should be starting over Kukurea. Like, I'm not saying that whatsoever. I just think that in this transitional phase that we're going through right now, give it a month, and then let's see what happens. Because Kukurea has a bit of an advantage, right? He played for Potter, so he knows what he's trying to do. So he doesn't have to change his game any different than what he's already been doing, right? He had all of a month and a half with Tuchel, and he's had 2 years with Potter before that. So like, he doesn't really have to change much. Chills does. And especially coming off that injury, like, there's a lot that's going to be going through his head, trying to figure out what to do, and also playing in that new system. So I would say give it time. I do think that Kukurea is going to be the better option in this system under Graham Potter, but don't be surprised if Chilwell ends up being level or overtakes Kukurea as we get, into, January, February.
Fair enough. We'll have to see. All right, boys. Well, I didn't have my clock running, but it feels like it's been an hour, right? Ish. All right. So on that note, any closing thoughts from you, Parker?
Oh man, it's going to be a fun October. I know we play a lot, and so it's going to be a bit of trial by fire. And I know Potter's going to have to sort of coach more from the sidelines, because he's not going to have like 4 training sessions in a row with the team. So I always try to remain patient, especially in transitional times. I don't want to be patient, and so, like Matt, you kept saying give it a month. I'm like, it's almost been a month. I know we haven't played much, but it's almost been a month with him in charge. You got appointed on like the 8th. So it's I'm ready. I'm ready to stop talking about some of the things that have been just recycled over and over and over again. I'm excited for the Kai Havertz and Mason Mount stuff to just hopefully go away. And I hope we can get back to our winning ways. Today was a very, very nice step in the right direction, pulling out a win when I didn't think we had.
I mean, to be fair, transitional, like, yes, give it a month. Yeah, he had 1 game in charge, and then international break hit. So half our team was gone on that. So it's tough to do training and implement your system when it's right over international break. But I completely understand. Like, I want the same things. Like, we all want to see like results right away. Like, we want to see it. And we got 2 very clinical finishes today to put us in front and get us a very crucial 3 points. So I'm happy about it, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the next month is going to hold for us. And I think that's going to be a big testament to how we are as a club and how Potter is going to implement his system and the kind of energy that he's going to bring to this club, which in my opinion desperately needs it.
Matt, I think I'm going to make an official drinking game rule. Every time you say transition period. No, but but before we cheers and drink our drinks for that, I got to pay the bills. Haven't done that in a while. But if you've enjoyed what I think we're on Twitch for a little bit today. If you enjoyed what you watched on Twitch, or if you enjoy what you watch usually when we're on Twitch, you can give us a follow there. We'll be there most Sundays at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. If you're busy on Sundays, like we are, or if you like to listen to the podcast version, you can catch us anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, etc. All that we ask is that you subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. You can give us a 5-star rating and talk shit about us. It doesn't matter. Just give us those 5 stars. You can always follow us on social media. The podcast itself is on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at FlagDownPod. You can follow me, Andy. I'm at Comiskey North. You can follow Parker at DJ Parkour and Matt at Matus Lee. If you have any questions, comments, or anything you want us to address on air, shoot us a DM on social media, or like I said, come join us on Twitch and jump in the chat. So, boys, that's all I've got. Let's toast to a fun October and to a great transition period.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm all potted out.